Morning, you muppets. It's Friday morning, it's about 10 o'clock-ish, and I'm off to cinema. I'm going to see the new M Night Shyamalan thriller, Trap, which opens in UK cinemas today. I had sort of vaguely had plans earlier in the week to do a double bill with Eli Roth's science fiction opus Borderlands, but to be honest, it's such as lousy reviews. As somebody who reviews films, I tend to sort of think, well, make up my own mind, really. But I do sometimes get influenced by what reviewers say. And as it has a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 3%, and again, I'm not a big advocate of Rotten Tomatoes. It's just a review aggregating site at the end of the day. But I think you have to listen sometimes to the sound of the crowd, and it appears the Borderlands ain't very good. And to be honest, seeing the trailer, it just looked like a very poor man's Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think I'm going to swerve that one. But I'm intrigued by M. Night's new one, so I'm going to toddle off to my local view and take a look, and I shall report back very soon. Welcome back. Right, big apologies for the fact that this video is coming too little late. It's now Sunday evening and I'm sitting down to record my review of Trap. No particular reason, just a bit lazy. I've got a couple of other videos to do. I am conscious that the second Spider-Man video is due. I've watched the film. That should be up tomorrow, and a few other bits and pieces. So I think I'm just suffering from a little bit of post-COVID summer laziness. So bear with me because there's stuff to come. Right, if you're new here, if you've wandered across this video wondering what I thought of Trap, why not like and subscribe? I don't know why I'm holding a pen. Like and subscribe. Press that button that makes you subscribe. And leave a comment. If you've seen Trap, let me know what you thought of it. And I'm going to now tell you what I thought of it. Right, it's difficult. Well, actually, it probably isn't difficult to talk about this film without spoiling it. There's certain things I'm not going to spoil. I am working on the assumption that you have seen the trailer. You will know broadly the concept of this film, because there's a major thing about this film, which isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer. There are some other sort of spoilery things later on, which I won't talk about. M. Night is, of course, well known for his twists in his films, and the twist is here up front and centre in the trailer. There are other things which I think you could class as twists. I'm not going to talk about them. It's M. Night's first original film, I think, for a few years. His last couple of films have been based on other source materials. Knock at the Cabin, that came out last year, was based on a novel, and the dreadful Old, which came out 3 years ago, I think, was based, I think, on a French graphic novel, something like that. It's nice to see him doing something sort of original M. Night idea. And in fact, it is an original idea. It's quite a quirky, clever idea that's full of potential for tension and suspense and excitement and thrills. But it doesn't deliver that in the first hour. It's quite unusual. The story, basically, as I say, you will know from the trailer, is that we're in Philadelphia. Josh Hartnett, who is incidentally brilliant, plays Cooper Adams. He's a firefighter, and he's taking his daughter Riley, played by Ariel Donahue, who's also excellent, to an afternoon concert by the latest pop sensation, Lady Raven. She's a sort of Ariana Grande, Dua Lipa type, who does this sort of pouty dance pop R&B music that the young people love these days. Anyway, he takes her to the concert and he notices almost immediately an unusually high police presence. There are police at all the doors, there are police on the stairs checking people. He discovers later on there's police on the roof. The police are everywhere. And he's a little bit intrigued as to why. So anyway, he takes his daughter to the concert, all is well. I think the film captures that excitement of those events, those huge arena concert things. I've never been to a concert by somebody like Lady Raven. I have, however, been to see Coldplay, and I'm proud of it. Yeah, it captures that sort of huge buzz that you get at these sorts of things. But then Cooper, who's intrigued by all the police, they're up in the stands, they're in the crowd, they seem to be removing certain people. He tries to find out what's going on. So at a concession stand, he asks a lad called Jamie, who's working at the concession stand, what's going on. And he tells him what's going on. There's a local serial killer called the Butcher, and the police, and particularly a police profiler, have received significant and plausible intel that the Butcher's going to be at this event. They've sealed the place up and they're pretty certain that he's here, they're going to catch him. This sets off some concerns for Cooper, because we discover almost immediately that he is in fact a butcher. He goes into the loo, he pulls out his phone, and one of his victims is trapped in a cage, and he's presumably be torturing him, and he will at some point kill him. Cooper realises it's going to be a bit difficult to get out of the arena because the police are questioning everybody, particularly sort of men in their 30s and 40s who are with their children. So he tries to find a way out. And the first hour of the film is pretty much about that. It's about him trying to find a way out of the arena to avoid having to go through this police cordon, if you like, around the building. But nothing much happens in that hour. I mean, it builds up a lot of tension. It's interesting to see how devious and how clever he is. You know, he steals somebody's ID card, so he gets access to behind the scenes. He's obviously very experienced at this sort of thing. But nothing really happens in terms of stuff. It's very much about him coming to terms with the situation and trying to find his way out. It's almost like a cat and mouse thing between him and the police, of him trying to outwit them. He never seems particularly worried that he's going to be caught, because he's so full of himself that he knows that he'll be able to find a way to get out somehow by manipulating the situation and manipulating people. There are a couple of things he does to cause distractions. I won't talk about them here. One of them is quite sort of nasty. And there's odd moments in relation to the concert. Now, I don't know if M Night Shyamalan's ever been to a concert, but his daughter is down in the auditorium. They're watching this singer. He wanders off under a pretense because he wants to find out a bit more about the police situation. And all of a sudden, Riley, his daughter, is there looking for him. She's come to, "Where are you, Dad? Let's go back in time for the next song." This happens a couple of times in the film. And the corridors all around the arena itself are packed with people. He bumps into the rather angry mother of a girl who goes to the same school as Riley. There's obviously some issues between them. And you sort of think, well, why aren't these people sitting in the concert? Why are they getting up and walking about? And I know people at concerts do go for drinks, they go to the loo, but there's hundreds of people milling around these corridors while this super famous pop star is on stage. And that happens about 2 or 3 times. And it starts to get a bit silly because he gets up and leaves Riley so many times. And to be fair, she does comment on it and says, "You're acting weird, what's going on?" But then she follows him. "Come on, let's get back for the next song," as if there's like an interval. Anyways, it's just an observation. It was a bizarre way to represent an arena concert, because normally once those concerts start, unless you're going to go to the loo desperately, you're there for 2 hours or whatever watching the turn. So anyway, this goes on for about an hour, and then we sort of move into potential spoiler territory, because all of a sudden everything changes. Everything changes. The situation changes. The locale changes. The stakes change. But to do all this, the film has to do some quite bizarre things. I mean, there are plot holes so huge that you could actually drive a bus through them, as they say. You sort of think, well, why has that happened and why have you done that? And Cooper in particular does one thing which is so stupid. It causes the rest of the film to happen. Now, whether that was a corner that M. Night had written himself into, he had to do something to move the story on. But what Cooper does is so irrational and so stupid, and puts himself and his identity at risk in a way that he was never going to get away with. And that is a problem with the film generally. There are so many what moments. You sort of think, well, what? Why have you... What's this? Why has that happened? Why have you done this thing? Why have you made this decision? Which makes the film a bit of a puzzle, because you've got a core of a really good idea here. But it's as if M. Night ran out of steam with it, couldn't do anything very exciting with it anyway, and then decides to do something totally different. And I say I'm not going to go into what that totally different is, but it makes the film very unbalanced, because you're watching this quite tense thriller and you sort of think, okay, well, what's going on here? It is quite interesting, because even though you're told that Cooper is a serial killer, you sort of quite like him. That's down to Josh Hartnett's superb performance. He comes across as a very loving father to Riley, but yet we know behind the scenes he's doing the dirty on people. So yeah, it's quite good in that you do actually you're interested in what he's going to do and how and if he's going to escape. So he's not a detestable character, certainly not in that first hour. The 40 minutes into the second hour, if you like, it just goes a bit bananas. However, it's not unenjoyable. I did enjoy watching it. It certainly kept my attention, even if it was in a sort of, what sort of way. So it's not a bad film. It could have been a lot better, I think, if M. Night had been able to show more confidence in his idea and run with that rather than do different things, because it does become almost a different film in that last 40 minutes, which is slightly frustrating because I like the arena setting and I think there was a lot going on there, even though it wasn't very believable what was going on. But it was an interesting setting and it was well played, it was very well directed. To be fair to him, he's a good director. But I think, once again, the problem is the script is a letdown, and I think that is a problem with M. Night's films. He has the idea, but he can't sort of see them through. And as in some of his previous films, some of the dialogue is a bit, do people speak like that? Do people, okay. A lot of it's quite naturalistic, but there are odd lines that make you think, oh, that's a bit of a clunker. But despite all that, it's an enjoyable 100 minutes at the cinema. It's very well made. The performances are very good. In terms of the rest of the cast, we also have the great veteran actress Hayley Mills, daughter of the late Sir John Mills. She plays Josephine Grant. No, not that Josephine Grant. She plays Dr. Josephine Grant, the police profiler who's responsible for tightening the net around Cooper as the film wears on. And just a slight observation, and I actually thought this at the time, and I've seen it mentioned elsewhere. Back in the early 60s, I think it was about 61, Hayley Mills, as a young child actress, appeared in a Disney film called The Parent Trap. I don't think it can be a coincidence that she's in this film playing somebody who's out to trap a parent. I think that's a little bit of sly, quite obscure casting, but it just struck me as I was watching it. I thought, hang on. And I've seen it mentioned in another review, so I got a feeling there must be something in it. M. Night's daughter, Salika, plays Lady Raven, the pop star. Now, she's had a bit of flack in some of the reviews that I've seen, but I think her performance is actually pretty good. It's possibly sort of a nepotism thing. People don't like nepotism. But I think she's very good. She has that sort of look of those sorts of slightly distant, pouty female R&B stars we get these days. But there's a humanity to her, as you'll see as well when we get deeper into the story. The music is totally forgettable R&B pap, but it's, the kids love it, and I think that Ariel Donahue does particularly well in showing that sort of hormonal teen hysteria of the pop concert. But the performances are pretty good. Later on, Alison Pill appears as Rachel, who is Cooper's wife. She plays a sort of an interesting part in the film as it goes on. But I'll say no more. I don't want to spoil it. I'm holding a pen again. I don't know why. I don't want to spoil it for you if you're planning to see it. And I would say go and see it. This weekend, there were two films that came out. There was this, and there was Borderlands, Eli Roth's film. And I was planning to see both, as I said in the preamble. I'm not going to see Borderlands now because I think it'll be available on streaming within a couple of weeks. It's probably one you can watch stream. But I wanted to see this in the cinema, and I'm glad I did. It was actually a fairly packed cinema for a Friday morning. A smaller screen, but it was quite busy. So I recommend it to Trap. If you can set aside worrying too much about plot holes and inconsistencies and why people do crazy things, that's all because things needed to happen to move the story certain places. But unfortunately, I think the place it goes isn't the most interesting part of the film. Anyway, Trap is in cinemas now. Go and see it. Go and see it. It's a laugh. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. For all its faults, it's worth a 7 out of 10. Right, thank you for watching this video. As I said, if you're new here and you've just stumbled across this video and want to hear what I thought of Trap, stick around. Go on. The subscribers are frozen again at the moment, which is frustrating. So press that button. Stick around. I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.